So welcome to the July 27th Shade Tree Commission meeting. First order of business is we'll do Pledge of Allegiance. So if you'd like to join us, flag is behind me. Thank you. Okay, thank you. So first order of business is the consent agenda. So I did have Leah split this out into three separate, just out of transparency. My personal property is 3C, so I will abstain from that vote separately once we get to it. But other than that, James or Matt, do you guys have any comments or questions around either of the addresses?
Well, I did the site visits. James I think, did some as well and looked at the plans. So
looked at the plans, yeah.
Yeah, none of the properties had any issues as far as tree protection or construction entrance issues or removal of trees. So everything looked good.
Sounds good.
To James and yeah.
Great. So I'll make a motion to pass A and B. All in favor? Aye. And I would request someone else make a motion to pass
Yeah, I'll make
C,
a
and I
motion
will
to pass
abstain.
C
Second.
as well. All
Second.
in favor?
Aye.
Great. Thank you. Any public participation on the consent agenda? Great. Now we get to new grading permits. So 4A, application for 800 Lancaster Ave, Villanova, St. Rita's, 2 trees to be removed. Do we have anyone from that address here? Great. If you could come up, state your name, property address, and just give us a lay of the land. Looks like Ian just turned on the screen, so if you have plans, you can lay them on the table there.
Okay.
And there should be an orange pointer in the podium that you can use. And just make sure you speak into the mic. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mara Baird. I'm a landscape architect representing Villanova for the St. Rita Hall renovation and addition. Regarding trees, there are only 2 trees that are proposed to be removed for this addition. One is a You said the orange. One is a large oak tree, 32-inch oak on the north side of the property. The horticulturists at Villanova have confirmed that it is in decline, but also cannot be well preserved within the scope of the addition. The other is a small 8-inch hybrid magnolia, and what is being proposed is to provide compensation for those trees. It's a very small project site. 2 dogwoods are being proposed at the north side of the property here and here. And in coordination with Villanova horticulturists, additional compensatory trees are being proposed on the west campus near the existing basketball court and volleyball court on the other side of Route 320. That's where we are.
Great, thank you. And I do see, excuse me, your tree removal schedule. So there is one that is between 6 to 18-inch diameter, one that's a heritage 30 plus. Although it's in decline, you are looking to replace 6, so we much appreciate that. So for a total of 7, and 2 of those being large canopy. Or I'm sorry, 4 of those being large canopy, and then the remainder of those 3 being whatever you would like and propose. Could you speak a little bit to the tree protection during the construction? I can see here on the plans that it's outlined, but if you could just speak to a little bit to that.
Brendan, do you want to address that?
Hi, Brendan Dorley, civil engineer for the project. Unfortunately, I didn't bring that plan with me to the project, but
Sure. I think we have it on file here, so you can just speak to it. That would be great.
yeah, if I remember the existing. As you can see, there are sidewalks around the existing project area that are these hatched areas. The nearest existing tree is this 24-inch right there. So we are proposing tree protection right along this line and then down this edge, which is really the eastern limit of the excavation work. And to the western side, there's a dogwood here and some smaller trees here that we're proposing tree protection along that edge as well.
Got it. Okay. I have no further questions. Anyone else on the commission? No? Okay. I know you guys always continue to do a great job, so thank you. Love those big beech trees along Lancaster Ave, so keep it up. I'll make a motion to approve plans as is. All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thanks.
Take care. Great luck. All right. Next property on the agenda is land development for the 9 lots, Stratford Eagle Roads. Good evening.
Good evening. Dave Falcone with Saul Ewing here on behalf of the applicant. I'll just give a very brief introduction and then kind of ask the board what their preference is, the commission. The plan that was submitted initially with this project is the 9-lot development that you see here, which we prepared landscaping for and which Bern Panzak can jump up and discuss. Since this plan has been submitted kind of recently, the applicant was contacted by a couple of the neighbors there who were interested in also selling their property. There's been some discussion there. So the applicant has acquired a couple of additional lots on this, kind of adjoining this property, and is moving forward with a plan that's going to incorporate that additional land. So there'll be a new plan that will come forward. The question, I guess, to the shade tree is, we can have a discussion tonight about this plan because the general landscaping that's going to happen along this area really is not going to change. The applicant has under contract now the bed and breakfast lot and then one additional lot that's kind of down in here. So it's going to create some development along Stratford, but there'll be kind of additional discussion with that updated plan. We didn't want to just postpone tonight in case there were neighbors that came. There aren't. And so, you know, we certainly don't want to confuse the issue in front of the shade tree and piecemeal it. So Kaz, who is here kind of on behalf of the applicant, the special purpose entity here, has shown the new plan to the neighbors and has commenced that discussion with them. He's walked the site with a lot of the adjoining neighbors. He's reached out there. He's also hoping to set up a site visit with some of you folks to do the same. Again, we wanted to be here and leave it kind of up to you how you wanted to do it.
Sure. So
and
thank you. Yeah, I would propose we can discuss the lot, knowing that it will change, knowing that we will be reviewing new plans. Thank you for the offer to come do a site visit. I did want you to come in tonight just to, discuss through public means, and then we can look to schedule a site visit.
Great.
When it works for folks' schedule. But I think that the main thing that we can chat about tonight, just so while you're, revising plans, looking at things, I do see you guys have an array of trees along that main drive. We always look for biodiversity, so from the planting perspective. But then also I see we have Steve tonight. If we could speak through the condition of the existing trees on the lot, just to get familiarized.
Great.
And we don't have to spend too much time on it, just, maybe
Sure.
5 minutes on each subject, and then we can
Okay.
look to talk later.
That's great. So I'm glad we're here then, and I'll turn it over to Bern, because I've exhausted my knowledge of landscaping and trees.
Sounds good.
That's great.
Thank you.
Yes, good evening. Bern Panzak, Glack and Thomas Panzak, landscape architects for the project. This is a project that I believe everyone's familiar with. I was a part of the team for the Hamilton Trust, which advanced essentially the same plan a year ago or 10 months ago, and I believe we went through a shade tree presentation. Some things have changed. We have moved the entrance driveway toward Stratford Avenue. There's a large tree on the neighboring property here that we were concerned about. So that shift has ensured a better solution or situation for that tree. One of the things that our client was interested in was a more formal streetscape look, and we have provided a alley of trees as it's been described. There are 3 different varieties there, and because we have a fair amount of street trees, we've selected a more formal sort of upright type of street tree, and there are 3 different types, as I mentioned. There's a London plane tree, Morton's Circle. There's a Quercus upright oak, Regal Prince, and then there's a red maple, a Bohol red maple. So in sort of groups, as you walk, kind of progress down the cul-de-sac, you go through several different changes of tree. Also, the plane tree wraps around and is present as a street tree along Eagle Road. Right now, there's a fairly significant embankment along Eagle. That will get relaxed. There's buffer requirements that are needed as far as ordinance requirements are concerned. Those are found here. And there are replacement trees. And I guess now would be a good time to talk about replacement trees. And Steve Schreiner's here, our consulting arborist. He can speak to the health and condition of the wooded areas, but for the most part, it's a little tough to see here, but the large majority of the interior core of this property is going to be cleaned of trees and sort of that will make way for the development, the roadway, the homes, and significant stormwater management. So what we've done is we've had several meetings with neighbors, and we've walked the site and primarily looked at border conditions, where we can save trees. We are doing that. We've been practical about the condition of the trees in these areas. And in some cases, neighbors have requested that we remove trees, and we would be willing to accommodate them in that request. So all of that sort of leads up to, you know, the formula for tree replacements. We are not taking any heritage trees of any quality. There are several larger trees that are in significant decline, if not already on the ground in this area here. And we are preserving a very large and wonderful walnut tree in the back corner. There has been no development proposed in the stem, which leads from the main parcel back down to Stratford Avenue. And as As Dave has mentioned, you know, there is an evolution of the project happening with the proposed development. We've connected sidewalks along Eagle Road. We've extended that down, and there's a large Norway Maple right on the property line or right in the right-of-way, which we are required to remove if we are to extend and connect the sidewalk. So that's a tree there that would be removed. And on the opposite side, there is no sidewalk to the sort of north or northeast of our site, so we will be terminating the sidewalk at the corner. There would be a refuge at the corner of our entrance drive, but we would not be taking any sidewalk further northeastward to impinge upon the large tree that's on the neighbor's property there. Certainly, stormwater management has been a big part of this project, and as it's currently constituted, there are stormwater management basins in the front of each lot, as well as in the rear of these lots. As I understand it, and we do have our civil engineer, Michael Boker, here from Apex Engineering. As I understand it, the front stormwater management basins are picking up the flow from the street, and the basins that are in the rear of the property are generally picking up downspouts and hardscapes that are on each lot. We've got a larger stormwater management basin here, and you know, I think as you can see, there's preservation of some of the material along the property lines with our neighbors to the south and west, and supplemental plantings where we can install those features in between the stormwater management basins. I would tell you that's kind of the overview of the project, and happy to answer questions. And
Sure, thank you. A couple quick questions. The array of trees, you had mentioned the species. Would they be grouped with the same species for each one of those three that I'm seeing?
would they be, what was
The same species for each one of those groupings of three, or would they be separate species?
It's generally broken down into thirds, like the London plane tree, the Morton circle is this front section. I think the Regal Prince is the center section here, and the red maple, the Bohall red maple, is generally around the circle.
So is there any consideration, so let's say one of those species, you know, has a disease. I know all three of those, I believe all three are very resistant, but let's say one has a disease and it wipes out the first third. Is there any thought to maybe mixing them up a little bit more than what they are on the plans?
I think it's something we can certainly consider and talk about if that's a preferred method that you would think would be preferred.
Yeah, I think that would be preferred, certainly. So, you know, while you're taking a revisit at the plans, if you could look at that, that would be fantastic. And then in regards to the buffer plantings between the properties, what type of species were proposed there?
There is a sort of a hedge of green giant arborvitae as you enter the site, and then several more. There's a transformer proposed in this corner, and then in a sense of formal design, we were interspersing Nellie Stevens hollies between the alley of trees, and we think that that's a plant that will grow in a relatively robust manner, and between the canopies of the street trees and the Nellie Stevens hollies behind will create a pretty nice buffer
Sure.
in those areas.
Okay. And then south, the buffers between the homes, are those similar species, arborvitae and
Yes.
holly?
Yeah, well, it varies between some cryptomeria. There is some Ilex opaca in there, oriental spruce, and more green giant arborvitae.
Okay.
We've got some relatively efficient spaces there to deal with, and in some cases, the more upright species are preferred in terms of not impinging over time on use areas for the residents in the future.
So no large canopy trees being proposed planted between the lots or the backs of the lots? Those would just be the
Yeah, we
existing
did have
trees?
some Nissus sylvatica proposed in this area, but yeah, for the most part, what you say is true. There's more flowering species kind of interspersed between lots.
Okay. One other question that I'd like to have Steve come up and we can talk about the trees on the lot. You'd made a comment around no heritage trees to be removed, no matter the condition. I find that a little hard to believe given the size of the lot, but if you could speak to that a little bit more.
Yeah, I don't know if Steve Schreiner wants to make a comment about the condition of these trees. They're really...
Yeah, before we get to that, Frank, go ahead. Make sure you turn your mic on.
Point of clarification, you're just talking about that property up on the top, so 201, 205, 207, are they properties you're going to acquire and come back to us with development? I mean, what's the story with those 3 or 4 properties?
Yes, there is a plan that, as it's being formulated now, it's very new to all of us. We're just understanding the properties that are now being assembled, and they are in this area here. I think this is a property here. It's hard to see the property lines, but that would be, that's an existing home site that would not be part of our future presentation.
Yep, Frank, tonight we wouldn't be seeking any sort of approvals. This would just be a
I'm just
first
trying to find out what's in the
look.
approval stage and what's going to come.
Gotcha. Yeah, no approvals tonight. They will come back with revised plans with the inclusion of the new lots, and then that's what we will review more closely and provide
Frank, they were
approvals.
before planning last week, and I think the planning commission preference would be to hear the plan in total. I mean, the planning commission would like to see the whole plan, not do 2 pieces of it. So I think that was our preference, but
Yeah,
that
my
has
thought
nothing to
tonight,
do with, you guys hearing about it tonight.
yeah, my thought tonight, in preparation for the site visit, just get an understanding of what we're looking at, and then we can go out, take a look. You guys will come back in a month, few months, whatever, and then we'll review the full plan.
Yeah, and this was a point of discussion with our team, but we did want to follow through with the meeting, as was stated earlier, in case there were neighbors that wanted to hear about the project. Like I said, we've met with neighbors and talked about the future and how we think the next plan will be coming together. And we're here being an open book, saying that there will be other things to come, and we just wanted to go through with the project that's before you and describe the areas, as Mr. Falcone had mentioned. We believe things won't be changing along the north edge with West Avenue neighbors, along Eagle Road, and along the property line with our adjacent neighbors to the west and south. So really, it's primarily this block over here that will be changing. So we thought there was value in coming before you and talking about our thoughts for the rest of the property.
Perfect.
Thank you for that clarification.
Mr. Schreiner, would you mind coming up and talking about the trees to be removed? Thank you.
The green one's good. Yeah. That'd be great. Perfect. Good evening. Steve Schreiner. So, as many of you know, this was before you folks, and it was approved and so forth, and so things have changed. So, from the tree standpoint, a lot of it's the way it was when you first looked at the property. I wanted to make reference to this is the Norway Maple tree out along Eagle Road, and you can see where the existing sidewalk stops. And we brought this to the attention of planning. If a sidewalk needs to go in, it's obviously going to affect the root system of the Norway Maple. And I would say the Norway Maple is in fair condition. You can just see in the top portion of the picture there is some decay there as well. But I would think the tree would need to be removed to accommodate a safe walkway. As far as heritage trees, there are a few on the property. Any questions on that Norway Maple? Sorry about that.
That's slated to be removed amongst
That's
others.
fine.
Okay.
Yeah. And Mr. Norsini was aware of it too.
Sure.
so he saw it.
Okay. Yeah. It's a Norway maple, so
Yep.
all good.
So, yeah, sure. Yeah, I like the color one. Yeah, what the heck? It's happy. I'd rather see happy trees, nice and green. So, as Bern mentioned, there are a number of Norway maples that we're going to leave along the perimeter between the adjacent properties. There's this large circle here that's an American elm, which is in very good health that we want to preserve. And I'm working with Kaz's team and so forth to set up the tree protection around it. Prior to any construction, we'll come in and fertilize it, and through construction, we'll monitor for watering and so forth.
Hey, Steve?
Yes.
While you're talking about that elm, I have an American elm, and I just had it injected.
Yes.
And that's a new thing, and they say it's very successful, so
Yes.
were you going to do that, or?
We've been doing that a long time. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it gives 3 years of protection and so forth. So yeah, definitely. Particularly when the tree's under stress, that's what attracts the bark beetle. So that's why we want to irrigate to minimize the stress, and we'll also inject it and fertilize it. Oh yeah. Thank you. So moving right along, as you come down, so a lot of the species, so we refer to this as somewhat of a degraded meadow. It's been a field for a long, long time. A lot of pioneer species have come up: ash, Norway maple, wild crabapple, black walnut, are the predominant species there. And obviously all the ash are pretty well decimated. A large portion in the middle, as you will see on the walkthrough, have already died. A number of large trees, as Bern mentioned, have already uprooted and fallen over. There's another black walnut that fell down several years ago. There's a large ash tree in the back that is pretty well defunct at this point due to EAB. So there were very few trees to even consider preserving on this piece of ground to begin with, as you'll see when we take the walkthrough. Moving further down, there's a black walnut that we're going to try to preserve on the property line. That's where the new estate fence will run, and we feel that we can keep the black walnut tree. The neighboring property has a very mature katsura tree that obviously will make the same accommodations for impact or limited to no impact on the root system of any neighboring tree that's to be preserved. and the same type of care will be taken there, where we'll fertilize, maintain irrigation during construction and so forth. Moving down the continuation of the property, there's some, again, some more trees in decline, ash trees and walnut trees that you'll see, even a non-expert can tell that the trees are structurally in decline. And then there's the hallmark tree of the property is the large black walnut tree in the back left corner. And this is obviously a very important tree to Kaz, and we really want to keep it. It's a nice, majestic tree. So again, tree protection fencing will go around it. It's in very good condition as well. You know, we're obviously happy to preserve that specimen tree. Coming up, we'll say the right side to the adjoining neighbors on West Avenue. In the lower pocket, kind of where the cul-de-sac is, you'll see a collection of pioneer species, trees falling down, uprooted, and all kinds of hazards around. So that area, those trees will be removed. Coming further up, there's an adjoining neighbor that has a very large Norway spruce. We all really appreciate the tree, and I assured the homeowner that we're going to take every step to preserve that tree and make sure that protection fencing goes up on Kaz's side of the fence, so to speak, and we will fertilize that and monitor that through construction. Continuing down the line, there are we'll say, few trees worth preserving. There are a number of hazardous trees that Kaz has been generous enough on the neighboring properties to remove. Some of them are fairly hazardous, and the homeowners were pleased to, you know, obviously be aware of the hazard and the fact that we would make that part of the scope of work. Moving down the line, there's a beautiful white pine that we want to preserve, mature white pine. We feel that that tree can remain, and that would be, is there a pointer? That would be, the white pine's kind of midway down. Norway spruce, where's that pizza pie? Where's that slice of pizza pie? Yep. So the Norway spruce is kind of down in here. The white pine is up in here, and as you come further down, there are mature trees on the adjacent neighbors which are back in quite a bit. But right along the fence line, there's an area where there's three fairly rotten sassafras trees that we're going to take out off the adjacent property, and then obviously on Kaz's side, it's going to get planted with new trees. And then pretty much right down the line, they're just small, insignificant trees of varying stages of deterioration. And it's self-evident. As soon as you look at them, you can see that there are more days behind them than in front of them. So, and just lastly, coming down to the end, we all felt it was the right thing to do to kind of work away from the neighboring pin oak tree. It's in great health, and Kaz was able to make an adjustment in the driveway to afford more space, limited impact on that tree, if any impact, really. So that's kind of the overview.
Yeah, that was perfect. Thank you, Steve.
Super.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Do we have any questions for any of the gentlemen before we move to public comment? Good? Okay.
Just in terms of, the Planning Commission heard there was public space in the development, like 3 sections of the development were going to be like public areas. Is that probably going to?
There were no public open areas.
Not public.
Yeah.
I mean, not public. I mean, just common spaces.
Yes, there were a couple common spaces, and I can't really speak to that side of it.
No, I was just wondering if that's going to change with the,
I think that's staying.
yeah.
Yeah.
Common areas will be there.
Would there be any more, Dave?
There's actually going to be, I think, kind of a larger area now that's going to exist back in here. There's going to be common space back behind, I think 5, 6, and 7. Those are the numbers, I think. There'll be kind of a large rectangle of common area back there. So no, I don't think
And
anything's
would
going to go away.
would those be planted with trees?
They're going to have stormwater management, so
Okay.
we're going to work around the stormwater management systems.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Yep.
I have one question for Steve. I'm sure I could call you up and not do it here, but would you prefer, and this is in general, burying all the plastic for stormwater that's going in, or would you prefer more trees? Being a board certified master cert.
I'm not an expert in that area. I'll defer to my wonderful civil engineer right here. I don't know what the code is or what the
No,
ratio is for
without any
stormwater.
code.
Yeah.
I'm just saying personally, would you rather more trees or more plastic in the ground?
Whatever my owner would like is what I would like. Yeah, okay, yeah. Fig trees.
James, I'm assuming you're getting at the natural benefits of trees soaking up water, retaining land. Okay. Okay. All right. Do we have anyone for public comment? Yes, go ahead and come up, state your name and address, and we can deliberate.
Hi, my name is Stacy Morgan, and I live at 424 West Avenue since 2004. So I've been a property owner for a long time. I've taken advantage of Radnor Conservancy's tree usage and planted quite a few of my own. I think one of the trees, I'm a photographer, so pictures speak a lot. That's the tree in the corner, okay? That's the tree in the corner that everybody's talking about,
Is that the black walnut?
the black walnut.
Okay.
Okay. And again, I know you're going to walk the property. Is that the intention? You're going to go and
That
check
is
the
the
property
intent,
out?
yeah.
This is my pine tree on the corner with the manhole here on the other side. This is Kaz's property over here. My concern is if they're tying into the sewer, how it's affecting my tree. I believe there's also a right-of-way. I'm not sure how that, I've been trying to look into the deeds a little bit on that. One tree that is right behind my property, and I don't know what is considered a heritage tree.
It's 30 inches or larger.
I would say this one qualifies.
It looks like it, yeah.
Okay, it's about 50 feet of drip line. It's a three trunk tree. I believe it could be a beech or a linden. I don't know. I guess Steve would know. I don't know what it is. But this is, it provides a great shade canopy, okay? So obviously that's right in the way of the road. It's, I think, Cass said the curb is at 16 feet out from the property line. This is about 25 feet out with a 4-foot breadth on the other side. So that's right about, I want to say, in the middle of my property. Right in the middle. I have 170 feet of contiguous face to the property. I probably have the largest backyard to the property. And that tree is kind of in the middle of the property. Now, he did talk about the one I showed you where the manhole is in the corner. Then you have the white pine on his property, and then I have a pine on the other side of my corner, because I think they planted them in the old times to mark the corners. So I just came to kind of talk about that tree that provides an awful lot of shade to my backyard and is pretty majestic to me. I've lived with it for a long time, but I don't know. I don't know if there's a way to save it or consider it, but that's what I was here to talk about, and my pine tree with the manhole is a concern.
Got it. Okay. Well, thank you
Okay.
very much. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Would anyone like to come up to respond?
Can I borrow those lovely pictures? I'll address it all. I'll give them right back to you. So, your first name again, I'm sorry? Stacy, sorry. So this is the lovely black walnut tree in the corner that we discussed that we're going to go to great lengths to preserve. We all love the tree. Tree needs to stay. Kaz loves trees, and we're going to do everything humanly possible to preserve that tree. One nice feature about black walnut tree, it's one of the most construction-friendly trees. They can tolerate a lot and still survive and do very well. Not that this one's going to have that impact because we're going to put tree protection around it, but that's a side note as far as the species is concerned. Unlike an oak or something like that, that are not as forgiving. When we were on our walkthrough, Stacy was on our walkthrough and so forth, and she and I spent a lot of time on her property. She's a very avid gardener and a dog champion. And I assured her that, and at the time I wasn't aware, I said anytime we would encounter a manhole or any type of digging, I discussed root pruning and the steps that would take. Kaz has since informed me that there's going to be no interaction with this manhole. This is something outside of the scope of development, and there's going to be no encroachment on the root system to gain access or to penetrate that pipe and so forth. That's correct. We're relocating the sewer, so we wouldn't be going in, tying into that line across that property. And we will still have tree protection. As you can see, that sewer cap, if you will, that would be within the tree protection that we would set up on Kaz's property. And I'm going to push for as much root protection as possible. That's what Kaz and I usually roll around in the dirt for a while to set that boundary, to really accommodate as much root system as we can and still proceed with construction. So this is a good picture. This is kind of the center of the property. I can perceive how much what I refer to as canopy transparency. So if you look deeper into this lot, you can see a lot of sunlight pouring in. That's because of the dead trees. If you remember earlier in my discussion, I talked about the center of the area having a lot of dead ash trees and uprooted trees. So you can see that's the backlighting due to no canopy with those standing dead trees. In the foreground, there are a number of Norway maples. Some of them have basal decay wounds. It's a canker that's up on the trunk of the tree. And again, as we walk through, you can see the conditions of those trees. But, you know, understandably, to Stacy's concern, as you look at it, it looks like a park. But as you look more closely, you can see the condition and age of the trees.
Guys, Seth, can you have people come to the microphone?
Yeah,
Because
can you
on
please-
TV, people won't be able to hear you.
Yep.
Thank you. It's fine, just come to the mic. Thank you.
Do you require mapping of the property of the trees?
Yeah, so the plans will have all of the trees
These are all the trees on the
trees to be
property?
removed, not
Okay.
removed,
I
and the
haven't seen that.
replacements. Yeah.
Okay.
These are the trees in the existing condition and marked for removal.
Okay.
And Stacy, those plans are available online through our agenda, and I'm sure they would be happy to provide them as well.
That'd be great.
Okay. I think there was one last, tree, thank you.
So this was categorized in the initial tree inventory, which I did not conduct, as three separate elm trees. So, and when I looked at it, you could make the argument that it is three separate trees because the way the branch unions develop, it's really at the base of the ground. It almost looks like it was cut off and then these sprouts developed. And the three stems do create, we'll say, a very broad and wide canopy that really makes it look, you know, much more majestic than it truly is. It is American elm, similar to the one we talked about. Kaz and I looked at this. Is it worth preserving? What would it take to kind of still have a development and this tree? And when we looked at it at the end of the day, it made more sense to remove this tree and bring in better species, insect disease resistant species that are going to have a lot more runway ahead of them than this tree that really doesn't fit into this piece of property. So that was the conclusion on the multi-individual stemmed
Great,
elm.
thank you, Steve. So it sounds like to preserve that tree, you would have to shift, you know, the entire development around it. which may not be advantageous, but per the removal of it, would you guys be willing to work with Stacy to come up with some replacements that would make sense to hopefully down the line, provide equal canopy and shading?
I would say yes, and that's in our walkthrough with her, and she and I had that discussion, and I assured her that she's going to have her privacy essentially day one back there, because right now the fence is wide open. This tree is in the background quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
She's going to have evergreen and deciduous trees right up along the fence area there with a new fence. So from the standpoint of privacy and feeling somewhat protected, you go- yes, but I mean, I don't want to get into banter about it, but this tree is, it's far enough away.
Sure. Okay.
So,
All right. Thank
Yeah.
you, Steve.
thank you.
Any other? Yes.
I would just say that in terms of the trees to be removed to tree replacements, there'll be 70 more trees replaced than trees removed. So there will be, when you add up all of the requirements of buffering, street trees, and tree replacements, we're a plus 70 trees.
Great. Thank you for that comment. Any other public comment? Yes, sir. Just state your name, address, make sure you speak into the mic. Thank you.
Dave Satterfield at 207 Stratford. I think there's a tree at the southern corner there on Eagle that is sort of in the way of the sidewalk. And I didn't know if that was discussed, whether that tree would be removed or not. It will be removed. Okay, thank you.
Great. Yep, it was earlier. That's a Norway Maple, which is not an amazing tree. So, but we also discussed that the plans are changing, so there's no approvals being sought tonight. And we as a commission are going to walk the site, and once the revised plans come through, that's when we'll have the vote. Anyone else? All right. Great. So we will be in touch regarding a site visit. Thank you for the opportunity, and we'll go from there. So appreciate it. Take care, guys. Okay, so that wraps up the new grading permits. So now on to item 5, tree removal without approval or clearing permits. I don't see anything on our agenda. Doesn't appear that any other new ones squeaked through, so we can move on to old business. All right, so first order of business. So Frank and the team and the group did a great job with seizing the opportunity of getting some trees left over from the PHS flower show. So we had a great amount of people that signed up. All of the 32 trees were accounted for. So that was great. I think we all worked well together as a team. We did use a new registration process through Google Forms, which I think worked pretty well, pretty slick. So we'll consider using that process for future plannings. But again, great job. Any comments on that? I don't know I know the flower show is moving back indoors next year. I would assume they would have some sort of similar situation that we could probably get in touch with Dana about, but it is indoors versus outdoors, so might be a little bit of a difference there, but we'll see.
If there are trees to be had, there'll be much fewer because of the square footage of the inside is much smaller
Sure.
than the park.
Sure. Cool. All right, fall planting. So now that we have the full team here, we did wait to vote on this until this meeting. So we have 2 invoices to approve, and then we'll work it through the motion of the township, but we first need to approve it as a commission. So before I move into the approvals of those two invoices, I did get some updated numbers from Bob Tate on our current funds. So just as a recap, budgeted for this year, 2022, we did have, let me get the exact number, around 15,000 budgeted for the big tree planting. I can't find it, but in any event, around 15,000. We've spent roughly 5,000 of that so far, so we have 10,000 left. However, our balance in our shade tree fund, if you will, is right around 43,000. So as we discussed earlier in the year, we'll, likely try or go beyond that 15,000, and as long as we have a minimum balance of around, I think we settled out on around 20,000. So I don't think we'll get close to spending, if you take 15 plus another 20, so that would be 35. We won't get close to that, but it's good to know we have some buffer there for some flexibility if we have some opportunities come up. So the first invoice to approve would be a quote that I got from Tree Authority. So this is a connection or a recommendation, I should say, from Dana at PHS. She sent me a few. I contacted them, and Hassan from Tree Authority, which is based out of Percassie, so a little ways away, but they specialize in bare root. They've been working with PHS and other townships to plant, and in our goal of dividing and conquering, I did get him to commit to helping us plant 50 trees. That wouldn't be the only 50 we would plant. That would just be helping us out. So he's willing to plant at residence or in the parks or wherever we need him to plant, along with the township and then along with volunteers, and if we do a WBA planting. So in any event, he offered a very great install price per tree, $100 a tree, which is great. So you take that times 50, that's $5,000. So before we make a motion, does anyone have any questions on this company?
Seth, what was that
and the
number again?
process? $5,000, so 50 times 100 per tree. And they would be planting the PHS bare root trees, which come at $95 a pop. So installed $195 per tree.
And what will they be doing for that 5,000? Planting them, will there be any maintenance, water bags?
Planting, mulching. So we did discuss, if they have, the township usually gets stockpiling of mulch, and we did confirm with the township and Ricky and the crew that they can pull from our mulch stockpile. So they'll mulch and water, but watering will still be at the responsibility of the homeowner for the residential plantings. If we end up doing, plantings in the parks and having Hassan and his crew do that, then we can work to figure out, what the watering scenario would look like. But mulching and staking.
And they'll also do staking and bagging?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
That's great.
Yeah, I think it's a great price. They do this for other townships. It'll help us out to help offset some labor, and we can plant more trees.
And Ricky was fine with this?
Ricky is fine with it, and Leah mentioned, I just confirmed from a new vendor perspective, easy enough to get them set up. So I think we're all set on the checking off the official checks that we need to.
We could go for more than 50 trees, of course.
Oh yeah, 100%. He was willing to plant 50, but no more, just because he mentioned that because the window of time for planting those bare roots, because he's doing more for other townships, he can commit to 50, but no more. He's got a busy crew.
Excuse me, Seth.
Yes,
How many were you planning to do in the fall planting?
we'll get to that, Ricky.
Oh, okay.
No, let's talk about that now. So I was going to propose we get 150 trees from PHS, which I know sounds like a lot, but hear me out. So 50 trees would be planted by Tree Authority, 50 by the township, and then 50 would be by volunteers. And we're still working on the pool of volunteers. If I have to plant 50, I'll try. So out of that 150, we can discuss tonight what that breakup would look like between residents and parks. I think obviously we always favor residential plantings. So when we open up registration, if we fulfill all 150 through residents, great. If not, then we'll look to parks and then also offset at possibly the WBA. I still need to work with Norsini, Reed Taylor, Ricky, and we'll knock heads together and figure out what we can do from the WBA perspective. I know there's some trees in the tree bank that Norsini has placed a while ago. So some of those I know we're looking to possibly put in the WBA area. But I know that there's also, some desire for possibly more. So it's one of those things where, let's commit to a number knowing that things, will shake out, if you will. But once we have, the goal in place, I think it'll be easy enough to find homes and figure out logistics. Any thoughts on that, Ricky?
My only concern with the fall planting, first off, is the number. I know you said 50, but that is leaf season for us, so that kind of rules the township as far as public works. The only thing we really do besides leaf pickup would be, trash and recycling. So to plant, 50 trees in a right-of-way, parks will be a lot, faster, but that right-of-way would, probably take my guys a couple weeks to do it.
So we could plan to have Tree Authority do residential plantings and then limit township planting to parks, if that would be a good compromise.
Well,
Go ahead, Frank.
if they're all PHS trees, they're limited to parks and right-of-way. They can't go in the backyard of a home.
Sure, yeah, we
Okay.
wouldn't plan that.
So, and if we use volunteers, we don't want them to get hit by cars, so we generally stick the volunteers in the parks,
Sure.
okay? We may not care about Tree Authority, so they can park in the plant in the right-of-way.
So in that case, maybe we commit to, you tell me, Ricky, if we were to have your guys do some right-of-way residential plantings, what is the maximum that you would commit to?
I love this.
I'm sorry, John, this
gonna
is
pay
making a
admission next
proposal in my ear. He said he would be able to, volunteer 3 of his staff to help out, so.
Oh,
Yeah,
Ah,
so that
thanks,
would,
John.
definitely help if we have, more guys.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah, because the one
Thank you.
concern of mine, just to put out, is a lot of times the parks, when it comes to leaf season, have been getting left behind because we have to make sure the streets and the roads are safe, getting those leaves off those first. So a lot of times my guys have to, or, parks guys have to go over on the highway to make sure that's done. So if I had extra guys from John, and we're also looking into possibly getting some part-time help. So it may be a little different this year in the fall, but I can't definitively say right now.
Okay.
Kenny, can you pass me the tissues, please?
Okay, well, so I think at the end of the day, we can work something out. We're not done yet with finding help. So I think, and John, thank you so much. I think, if we say we're going to do 150, we'll figure it out, kind of thing.
I mean, Seth, one of my concerns is it depends also, when are we going to plant? I mean, if we're planning like in December, like we have in the past, I think getting volunteers to plant in that freezing cold weather with ground maybe not frozen, but, still, it's not like a fun day in the summer like we did
Sure.
this past go-round in the spring.
Yeah, so with the,
I personally wouldn't want to be volunteering to go out in the December cold to
yeah, it
dig
would,
and water a plant.
I agree. It wouldn't be the December, fortunately, because the PHS pickup for the fall planting is, Frank, remind me? Early November.
November's really our window for getting the trees in the ground.
Yep.
So we're talking before Thanksgiving?
Yes, before Thanksgiving.
So
And
that's,
it's
that's a better window for sure.
Yeah, it's about a 10-day window from pickup to when we have to plant, so usually like a weekend or two.
And
is what
Seth,
we have.
it'd still be possible to get, a clone of Tree Authority. We could find another volunteer.
Exactly, yep. Still in the hunt, but I think, we can make it happen.
If you need
Are
help
we
there,
able
let
to
me
reach
know.
out to what was the name of that volunteer group, Frank, that was so fantastic in the spring? Are we able to reach out to them again? Because they were
Yeah,
terrific.
I've talked to PHS about that, and they said, because they got the volunteers for us, which I was very
Right.
grateful for. I
Right.
was on my knees being grateful. But they suggested, oh, Frank, since it was so successful, maybe you can do it this time. So I could go out to the DeVita people and maybe even some residents to say, could you plant in your parks with the DeVita people? So
Yeah, and our thought
that's a
is,
doable sort of thing.
one of the pieces of feedback that we got from the spring planting was, while the volunteers were planting the trees in the parks, on the backside of these residential homes, they were like, well, why aren't they out here helping us? Rightly so. So I think what we would do is, have Molly send out a communication for volunteers for helping to plant in parks, would most likely make the most sense. And, we can source residents in addition to, if DeVita wants to help out as well. But I feel like we could turn it into, like a family event, come out, plant some trees, have some fun, and see who we can get. Cool.
The other source of volunteers is Cabrini College.
Mm-hmm. That's true. There was an offer of,
We just didn't go to them for this.
sure.
But
Okay.
they've offered.
Great. All right, so we do need to, get an approval on this quote so that, Hassan can earmark us for the fall. So I will make a motion to approve using Tree Authority and the estimate provided for 50 trees at $100 a pop. Do I have a second? Aye. All in favor? Aye. Great. So we will work on the logistics of getting that in place. And the second quote is from Do It Best Hardware in Wayne. So I went over there a little while ago, and the owner, Lou, gave us a very great discount on tools. I worked with Ricky to figure out what made the most sense in regards to what we want. So just a quick recap, it's 20 shovels, 5 pickaxes, 5 hard rakes, 5 leaf rakes, and 3 giant trash cans to put all the tools in, and then 10 5-gallon buckets to lug some water from various water sources while we're at the parks. And that comes out to be a total of $1,017. And generally speaking, the discount was between 5-10%. So great deal. Glad to work with a local business. Any thoughts, comments on tools? And Ricky has volunteered to allow us to put tools in the corner of the Public Works building too.
So they'll be stored there?
Yeah, they'll be stored there. We'll engrave Shade Tree Commission on the tools so that they don't go walking. And we're going to put GPS trackers on them too. So that's the idea.
Well, with Ricky's guys guarding them, we should be in good shape.
Exactly. Great. So I'll make a motion to spend $1,000 plus sales tax against our budget. Do I have a second? All right, all in favor? Aye. Great. Okay, we'll get that one moving as well. Next item is the ordinance update. So we do have, this was supposed to be on the BOC's July 18th meeting, I believe it was, but it needed to be split out just because it was grouped with a couple other ordinance updates. So that has happened, and Ricky, I believe you mentioned it'll be on an upcoming BOC agenda, correct?
Yes, I'll be emailing the township solicitor tomorrow to make sure that he has this ordinances ready to go before the board for that August meeting so they can be approved.
Perfect, thank you.
And we don't anticipate any problems?
No, we had brought this to the board a couple months ago, got everyone's head nod essentially, pretty straightforward update. So this is really just formalization of signature, that's all. And that includes the emergency tree removal, and then also the removal of requirement for having a Parks and Rec representative sitting on the board. So once that does pass, then we can talk about recruitment. So we are down one, and I know we have a few term expirations coming up. Not that I don't want to get rid of anyone, but start talking to your friends, family, seeing if anyone's a tree hugger, and we can get them on the board. All right, and then next, so the comprehensive update, the one that Eileen has graciously been shepherding throughout the year. So that's next on the list to formalize through John Rice, our solicitor. So once we get these two off the table signed, then we'll have him work on those. So that's the next order of business. Tree maintenance proposal. So I did start working on this. I'm hoping to present something to you guys, commission members, soon. It's using a lot of great information that Matt had put together a while ago that we've discussed and everything else. So we'll get that moving because I know we're, at least the BOC's in the midst of comprehensive update, and I see Lisa staring at me for making sure we get this through.
I just, are you guys planning to have it, this is something I think we wanted to try to include in our next budget.
Yes.
But we needed some sort of framework.
Yes.
So, okay, you guys are on target for that.
Yes.
Because I feel like budget will be here before we know it.
I know. When is the
crazy.
next milestone that you guys will be discussing?
We usually get like our first preliminary budget in like October, I think we
Yeah.
start.
We're actually
Yeah.
starting to compile it now, township staff. So,
Oh,
we're
Ricky.
doing the behind the scenes
Putting the
work
pressure
before
on.
it gets- Yeah, a little bit.
No, that's good, though. But yeah, so the proposal would be, what does our maintenance look like that we've done in the past, with these, I don't want to say spontaneous, but these tree removals that the township has been doing, making sure we accommodate all of these great plantings that we're doing in the parks, everything else, in hopes to get personnel or other resources formalized. So that is the goal. All right, any comments on maintenance proposal? Any thoughts, questions? Great. And then the master flyer that was sent out by Molly on July 7th. We are planning on having pieces of that sent out in various different means, but the first one was sent out July 7th. So if you're subscribed to the the Radnor updates email chain, if you will. It came through there, and then it was also posted on a couple of the social media outlets. So that is that.
Seth,
Yeah.
can I just add, I think that the piece looks really nice. You guys
Thank
did
you.
a really nice job on it. It looks really nice.
It's tough to get everything onto one sheet that was important, but I think we pulled it off, so thank you.
You guys did a good job. I'll share it out in my newsletter.
Great.
Should ask the other commissioners.
Thank you.
As
Yeah, I
well.
know Molly was going to reach out to the BOC. I'll check in with her to make sure that that happens.
I think she might have, because I think that's how I saw it.
Oh, okay, perfect. Okay, great.
Yeah, I think
So-
she might have. I'm sorry.
So Seth, we also handed out that flyer when we gave away those 30 trees,
That's,
and the BOC would be wonderful. Can the Radnor Conservancy pass that out with any of their newsletters?
yeah, I'll reach out to Gretchen and see what we can do there. That's a good idea. Yeah, we did hand these out during the PHS Flower Show tree pickup at the township, along with Dana gave us care and watering instructions that we gave out as well.
Can I just make one little comment? Since you brought up the Conservancy, just to circle back on the maintenance plan, were you going to engage with any of the other groups? And we have so many people in the township who are interested. I just wonder if it's better for you guys to engage on, here before it comes to the board, and then people, if like you have all those interested parties.
100%. Yeah, we
Okay.
did a couple of years ago, well, more than that, pre-pandemic, we did meet to discuss the flyer and some other things. So we've kept that conversation going, but that's a good reminder, Lisa, just to reach out to all that we know and get their input. Okay. Anything else on old business that I may have missed or you want to chat about? Cool. Lots of good successes, things to pat ourselves on the back with. So thank you. 7, new business. I don't have anything new. It's summer. Everyone's on vacation. Make sure you water your trees. We've had a significant dry spell over the past few weeks. And plants and shrubs. We like those too. Does anyone have any new business? Great. Hazardous trees. So it looks like there were 3 properties with 4 trees. Just taking a look at the hazard tree reports right now. John, did you get a chance to look at any of these? Any questions, comments?
Yeah, all 4 of them, typical, tool poppers with the K. And these are all from reputable companies, and they were all verified.
Got it. Thank you. All right. Sorry, while I get back to the agenda. Trees removed by the township. Ricky, you want to speak to any of those?
All of these trees were signed off on by John, a couple on Bailey Road. They were signed off by John probably months ago, and we reached the deadline, so those had to be removed. The ones on Marlbridge and Wild Haven were the same, came up to the deadline, John signed off. The ones at the Willows were actually near the mansion. We got a call from the Willows Parks Preserve about some dangerous trees that were at the top of the wall by the mansion, so we had John go over and take a look. So we had those 3 trees removed, emergency removal. There is one more, just in case anyone happens to go through the Willows. There's a huge heritage ash on the entrance right by the cottage that will be coming down. It's just we had to break it up and take care of the ones that were more dangerous up by the mansion, but the one at the cottage will be coming down too if you see it with the white ribbon around it. That's what's basically waiting to happen.
Sounds like some good replanting spots we got there. Great. Okay, no public participation.
Seth, could I?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I meant to, I made some notes here, just to give a update, because we know the tree contractor for those 150 trees that you guys had looked at that list and the board signed off on. I just wanted to give a quick update as to how they're doing on that list. All of the prunings have been completed, the right-of-way prunings. All of the removals for the right-of-ways have been completed. What's left for the removals in the right-of-ways is some stumps have to be grinded, some grindings have to be cleaned up, and the topsoil and seeding has to be finished for that part. So you may see some mounds of grindings that still have to be cleaned, but we're still in the middle of that project, cleaning that up, so it hasn't been completed thoroughly. And as of right now, the McIlvain Tree Service is up on the bike trail, and they should be done. That was the majority of our trees. I think it was about 70 were up there. And they only have maybe 20 trees left, and they said they should be done by Friday up on the bike trail. So that was the major component on that list. Once we got the bike trail done, we still have about 4 parks where we have to go through too, but I just wanted to give an update as to, how they're moving along, and they're making great progress.
Great, thank you. And it's worth noting, we did get a communication out before the work started, so thanks for doing that, Ricky. I did have, I guess you would call them a writer from patch.com reach out to me because he saw we cleared that up. I think he did a good job at clarifying, communicating any questions that the public had, which was good. And, it was very clear that, these are all dead hazard trees, so. Great. Anyone have anything else before we call it a wrap? Great. Thank you so much. Meeting adjourned.